Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you to Shopify for having us all. Real quick, thank you to Julia, who's in the back. And if you haven't gotten your bag yet with the cool CTC Shopify logo, she's back there sewing those up. Garrett will model them for you over there. And if you're, because we're in the spirit of helping each other out here, Julia just launched her first Shopify store a month ago. So Home Ec Shop is her store selling all sorts of handcrafted stuff. So let's hear it for Julia, a little support. Quick show of hands to get a sense of who's here. So who is a store owner? Okay, that's what we figured it would be most of you. Who's just a media buyer for lots of different stores? Okay, a few of those. Yep, we figured Nick's friends would come. Okay, cool. So that's good. That's good to know. So mostly store owners. That's great. So my name's Taylor Holliday. I'm the managing partner of the Common Thread Collective. We are the sort of co-branded sponsor whose logo is in front of Shopify for the only time ever, probably. But nonetheless, it was our opportunity. We got to do the branding, so we took advantage. But we are an online sales agency, and we use that language just to make it really clear what we're here to do for people, and that's help them sell product on the internet. And the primary area of focus for us is brands on the journey from $0 to $20 million. So that's our area of sweet spot where we focus. And the reason we focus primarily into that area is because we are passionate about helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. That's our mission statement as a company. And that's because we are ourselves, first and foremost, founders and brand people. So we started a couple of different consumer product brands over the last 10 years. The first was a company called Power Balance. You may have remembered those silicone wristbands back in the day that athletes were running around and people were doing the balance test demo. We went from about $0 to $60 million in 22 months with that product, one of the craziest rides ever. The second consumer brand we launched is a company called Kalo, which sells these silicone wedding rings. A similar story, over the last 5 years, we've sold $75 million worth of silicone wedding rings. So before anything else, we are brand people. We live and love being entrepreneurs and seeing products go from concept to ideation to in the hands of people around the world. And so for us, that's really what makes us passionate and different about what we do. In fact, we're still on the brand side. So alongside the agency, where we service about 80 different clients in the consumer product space, all e-com companies, we also have 3 of our own brands. So we run a part of our business called 4x400. You'll hear from the person running that organization tonight about some of the strategies that we use there. And the reason we think it's important for you to understand that part is because we think it makes us uniquely empathetic to the journey of being an entrepreneur, to being a store owner versus just being an agency. When you are spending your own dollars and the outcomes determine whether your business survives or fails, the strategies that you put forward are going to be different than if you're just an agency and you don't have that same response to it. So a lot of the things that we've crafted, the outcomes, the strategies and case studies we're going to share tonight are born out of that constraint. Having our own brands gives us an environment to play in where we have to figure out how to make this work to survive, which is the thing that we think actually breeds a lot of great opportunities. So for us, what we're going to share with you today is 3 specific case studies that we think are going to help to fight off an experience that we have had in Facebook and Instagram advertising. So that's a lot of what we're here to focus on today is customer acquisition using Facebook and Instagram. And right now, what we have seen is many of the brands that are coming to us are experiencing what we call the teenage years of brand development. So any parents in the house? Okay. So I have 3 little kids. They're not quite teenagers yet. And right now, I have twin boys that are 5, a daughter that's 2, very much under my control. If they disagree with what I want, they can kick and scream, but I can pick them up and move them to where I need them to go at the end of the day. But as they become teenagers, their willingness to listen to my direction will likely decrease over time. And what we see is that most of the brands now that have been on Facebook for 3 or 4 or 5 years are experiencing something similar. An ad account that 3 years ago was all arbitrage, all scale, all fun and high ROAS is now beginning to plateau. And despite all of your best efforts, every course that you can try, every new ad creative, every new audience, whether it's CBO or not, you're struggling to find scale. This is a very common narrative that we hear, is that for people, whether it's audience saturated, they've experienced years of tremendous growth on the back of these platforms and are stalling out. So we have experienced this alongside you. We know the dynamics of the system have changed. CPMs have risen about 100% year over year on Facebook. It's simple supply and demand. There aren't enough human beings in the United States to offset the number of advertisers entering the ecosystem. Despite finding new placements like IG Stories and serving you ads every other story on IG Stories and on Instagram and these other places, the supply economics of Facebook are just being offset by the number of advertisers. So there are many people that will just think about that as something to complain about and a reason to move your money out of the ecosystem and to tell you that Facebook is no longer what it was and the gold rush is over and you should move on. We aren't those people. We still fundamentally believe that this is the most powerful advertising tool in the world and the best way today to build and grow your business. We just think you have to play by a little bit different set of rules. Is that you have to understand more things about retention and focus on conversion rate and all these different elements that go into the customer journey besides just trying to ask for a higher ROAS with more money over and over and over. We think that's sort of a fool's errand. So what we have to share with you today are 3 unique strategies that we have seen us be able to continue to push scale despite the current ecosystem. So when we say 3 unique ways for your brand can win with paid social, the key is in 2019. So it's thinking about the context for what is unique about 2019 relative to every other year on Facebook, and how do these strategies uniquely apply to that. So that's the context for what we're going to talk about. We're going to have 3 different case studies. Each person's going to come up and share. I'll ask them a couple follow-up, and at the end, the real key is we want you to get selfish. So as you're thinking, we want you to really be focused on how does this apply to me, because we're going to come back and do a little Q&A. We'll stay here until they kick us out of the space. We've got a bunch of our team members here. Raise your hand if you're part of CTC, okay? Any of these people are here to help you, to ask them questions. Again, be very specific about your business. Use this time. Make it worthwhile for you. And just because there will be a lot of material covered, and I appreciate those of you that have a notepad or are here to take notes, but we will also, if you signed up for the email, you'll be getting a full replay of the video sent out tomorrow, as well as all of the decks that you see will be sent out to you, as well as 5 additional videos that build on the content that we talk about tonight. So we wouldn't be marketers if we didn't have a true post-event email flow. So we'll make sure and have one for you. So that just means that you can take copious notes, but you'll also be supplemented with the information that you get afterwards. Make sense? Cool. So the first person we have coming up to talk is Savannah Sanchez. Savannah is a paid media manager here at the Common Thread Collective. And this is an important warm-up for her because she will be doing this talk later this year in Barcelona on the stage of She-Commerce. So she's one of the definitely growing stars of female in the e-commerce world. And she is responsible at CTC for all of our media buying methodology. So one of the hardest things in the world for any of you that have a team of media buyers is to get groups of human beings to analyze data and respond consistently. It is an incredibly difficult task. And so building out things like decision trees and methodology and sequencing of creative are all really complex topics that she helps us to tackle. So let's all give Sav a hand.
Hey everybody, thanks for the great introduction, Taylor. First of all, I just want to get from a show of hands, who is currently running their own Facebook ads? You can put them high and proud. Okay, so it's like more than 50%. And then I have a second question. Who thinks that the Facebook algorithm is smarter than you? Oh, only a couple hands, okay. All right, got some egos in the room. So today I'm going to be going through a very specific case study. This is Love Wellness. This is one of our e-commerce clients. They do health and wellness products for a female beauty brand. And I'm going to be talking about, in particular, machine learning in action. So how you can utilize Facebook's automation and machine learning to really leverage your brand with your Facebook ads. So first, a little bit about me. So this is a photo of me at my graduation. I graduated my MBA last year from Chapman University, and I specialized in marketing analytics. So a very proud moment of my life. Something I also do, which Taylor introduced me by, is I create the ad buying methodology here at our agency. So I teach everyone how we run our Facebook ads, how we think about creative sequencing. And I'm also involved in Admission, which is our product in our membership service that we offer to entrepreneurs just like you guys. So we teach you guys how we actually run Facebook ads and how you can use it for your business. And then lastly, I recently had my ad buying methodology posted in a Sumo blog. And so I can also send that out to you guys through an email after this event. So I had a very real moment with myself where I had to realize that Facebook is smarter than me. And this was a very hard moment. As someone that studied marketing analytics, I love going through the data. I love running through Excel, our studio, to really try to find correlations between different Facebook metrics, how I can get the most efficiency out of my Facebook ads. And when I had to come to terms that Facebook's algorithm is 100 times better at making data-driven decisions than I'll ever be, I have to admit, that was a very big blow to my ego. But the second I realized this, it opened me up to do two things. The first thing, I was able to focus on my product and how I can increase the conversion rate on my website. But secondly, most importantly, is I can learn how to do marketing messaging better. And that's where I started focusing more of my time on. Because Facebook has made it so much easier for advertisers to use their automation and machine learning so that you don't have to do the data-driven methodology behind it. You can just focus on making really powerful creatives and optimizing your product and your website. So what I want to introduce to you guys is Facebook's Power 5. So this is a methodology released by Facebook just a few months ago, where they're talking about their 5 machine learning updates that you can utilize to make running Facebook ads so much easier. The first one I'm going to go into is auto advanced matching. So what this means is that this is something that connects to your Facebook pixel. And what it does when you turn this on your Facebook backend, which is in Business Manager settings, all you have to do is flip on auto advanced matching. And what it'll do is it'll collect information from your customers. So if they're entering your website in different, if they're entering their email on your website or in your checkout forms, their first name, last name, date of birth, it'll connect that to your pixel so you'll be able to effectively remarket your customers better so that you can match that to your retargeting efforts. The second thing is account simplification. I think this was the biggest thing that I had to realize as a media buyer. You don't have to have hundreds of campaigns, thousands of ad sets to be able to scale on Facebook. All you need, and this is from Facebook itself, is 15 or less ad sets. And what an ad set is, for those of you who don't currently advertise on Facebook, are different audiences where you place your ads in. And this was a huge realization for me, because in Facebook media buying, even just a year or 2 years ago, it was all about hacking the system. How do I slice and dice my audience in different ways in order to find efficiencies, or doing hacky media buying strategies, or different bid conversion events? Facebook is saying that the top advertisers for e-commerce are people who are using a simplified account structure, one that's easy to set up and it's easy to see which creatives are working best. You don't have to get hacky with it anymore to succeed on Facebook, which is really great news to everyone here. The third thing is campaign budget optimization. And what this means for those of you who are already advertising on Facebook is that you can set your campaign budget at the campaign level instead of the ad set level. So what this means in practice is, let's just say you have 3 different core audiences that you want to target. Instead of choosing, I want to spend $50 on this audience, $100 on this, $200 on this audience, you basically tell Facebook, I want to spend $500 today. Here's what I think are my top 3 audiences, and I'm going to let you decide where to spend my money. So this is relying on Facebook's machine learning and algorithm in order to improve your Facebook ads. The fourth thing is automatic placements. And this is something that every Facebook advertiser should be leveraging. What this means is that when you're setting up your ad set, you let Facebook determine whether to show your ad on IG story, on feed, on right-hand column. You tell Facebook, you know where my customers are most likely to convert. Facebook has so much data about the people who are on their platform. I'm going to let Facebook decide where to show my ads to. You don't have to do the guesswork to say, I think my customers are going to convert on this feed or on Instagram versus Facebook. You just tell Facebook, I want to let the algorithm decide where my customers are most likely to convert. And the last thing, which I'm going to dive into for the rest of this presentation, is dynamic ads. So most of you might be using dynamic ads for dynamic product ads for remarketing. So if someone goes to a PDP or a product page, what will happen on Facebook is it'll show a product on white carousel image of the product that they viewed. And it'll show it on their feeds, on Instagram, on Facebook. But another thing that advertisers aren't leveraging, which I want to dive into further, is dynamic creative testing. And this is where you can upload different variations of your headlines, top text, images, and Facebook will dynamically choose which combination to show your target audience. It's really powerful machine learning stuff, and you should definitely be leveraging it to make Facebook ads easier for you. So this is me battling with the robot, AKA Facebook's algorithm, in this fight to say, am I really not smarter than Facebook? I can't outbeat the system. And the second I gave this up and I realized that Facebook is smarter than me, I can trust the algorithm to serve my ads where people are most likely to convert, then I was able to focus my time at Common Thread Collective, not on just manipulating audiences or bidding strategies or splicing and dicing ads. I was able to free up my time to work on so much more powerful things that really make a difference in increasing revenue on Shopify. So what I'm here to tell you is let Facebook do the heavy lifting for you. There's 3 things that Facebook is really good at. And it's, the first of all is who. Facebook is really great at taking your pixel data from the pixel you place on your website, which is just a piece of code that will track all the conversions coming through. And if you give Facebook a broad audience, so if your audience, if you know that females convert, and that's the broadest segment you have, just tell Facebook, my audience is female. I'll let you guys decide who in that audience is most likely to convert at my CPA target. There's no need to slice and dice different lookalikes, different audience, like niche interests. You can go broad with it and win. The second is where, and this is utilizing automatic placements. So you don't have to decide, I want this ad to show on IG story for feed for this customer. Let Facebook decide where to show your ad. And lastly is when. There's no need to say that I only want a frequency of 3 on this ad, or I want to show my ad to my person in the morning. Just tell Facebook, I'm going to let you decide when to show my ads and how many times to show my ads, because Facebook has the most data about when your people are most likely to convert and how many times they might need to see your ad in order to convert, especially if you have a high AOV item. Someone might need to see one of your ads 3 or 4 times throughout the day or throughout the week before they end up converting, and you can let Facebook use their machine learning to determine these stats. So what does that leave my job? If I'm not focusing on the who, the when, the where, this is where all of your time should be going when you're thinking about Facebook ads, is focusing on the why. Why should someone care about my product or my ads? If there's one thing we know about advertising is that people inherently hate ads. And that's why we realize, especially on Instagram, people engage with ads that feel native to the platform. You don't want to feel like you're interrupting their feed experience. Nobody wants to engage with an ad that feels like an ad. So what you should be focusing 95% of your time on, instead of tactical media buying strategies or trying to get hacky with it, is let Facebook do the dirty work of finding who, when, and where. Focus on why someone should convert and why should someone care about your product. And if you do that, you'll do very well on Facebook. So what is my job function and your job function as media buyers? The first is you have to get a little scientific with it, like Bill Nye the Science Guy. So what is my job as a Facebook media buyer? It is hypothesis testing creative and establishing statistical significance. So what I mean by this is, especially at Common Thread Collective, where we have in-house graphic designers, is we are constantly testing creative, ridiculous testing. We're knocking out 10 different variations a week for all of our ad accounts. And this is very important because we know that small changes to creative, even changing the first 3 seconds of a video, can have a massive impact on conversion rate. So it is your job to be testing hypothesis tests every single week. And the second is establishing statistical significance. So what I mean by this is that Facebook says that an ad set needs at least 50 conversions a week in order to optimize. So you do have to be patient. The worst thing you can do as a Facebook media buyer is to be tinkering with your account, to launch it for a day and then say, oh, this didn't work, or I'm going to touch the bidding strategy. The best thing you can do is to wait. Be patient with the algorithm, let Facebook do its job, get the 50 conversions that week, and then you can analyze your data and say, did this creative work? Was it effective? What were my metrics? But you have to be patient. That's one of the things about Facebook that a lot of media buyers get wrong, is touching it too much, when the best thing you can be oftentimes is just being more hands-off. So now I'm going to dive into our client. This is Love Wellness. They sell feminine care products such as wipes. They also sell mood pills, anti-bloat pills. And the reason why I bring them up as an example is that we've been working with them for the last 6 months, and we were able to go from a 2x ROAS, so 2 times return on ad spend, to over a 5x return on ad spend. And we're now scaling them over 100K a month in ad spend. So we're very proud of this product and what we've been able to do for this brand. But why I want to bring them here in particular is because we went about a very specific hypothesis testing process that I want to share with you in terms of how we sequence our hypothesis testing of creative in order to get actionable results. So I have a game. So what I want you to do is I want you guys to guess which creative work, and this is what we do when we launch any new ad account. We're testing creative types. So what we did is we launched with a carousel. In the middle is a PR video where we have different PR quotes flying in, showing different angles of the product, as well as an IG story interview where the founder, Lauren Bosworth, is interviewing her own customers about the product. So you can just shout it out. What do you think was the best ad? 1, 2, or 3? Here's some 3s. Some 2. No one likes carousel, apparently. Well, for those of you who said 2, you were right. This PR video smashed. I mean, over 3x the ROAS of the other videos. So what we said is we're like, okay, PR works for this client. Let's try some more PR angle videos. So we have our original Forbes video, right? And now we're testing different product imagery, different quotes. We're trying to outbeat this best forming ad. And the sequencing of this is important. We're leaving one variable constant. We're leaving the text and the headline constant. All we're testing is different variations of a PR video. So anyone have any guesses about which video was the best out of these 3? Oh, this is too divided. Here's some 1s. Anyone have a strong opinion? Okay, it's 1. We could not outbeat this Forbes video. 2 weeks straight, this one is smashing, and the other ones aren't even getting the same results or even close. So then our team has to decide, what is it about this specific video? It's not the fact that it's PR. It's not the fact that it's a square video. It must be, maybe it's this front image, maybe it's having the quote in the corner. Now we're starting to get some more hypothesis of why this video is outperforming the others. So now we're isolating the variables even further. We're saying, okay, we're taking the exact same photos, exact same slideshow, just changing the front quote from Forbes to Birdie. Anyone? Forbes? I really like your comment because you're saying that you might think that Birdie is better because it's a women-focused PR. But here we are. We're pumping out all this new creative and we can't outbeat the Forbes video. We're like, what is going on? It's credibility. That's 100% it. Forbes carries so much credibility. So we're like, okay, Forbes it is. We're going to triple down on Forbes. And this is a real quote that we've said around the office. Forbes is life. And that's really what this account became. This became the account of Forbes. We're like, okay, this Forbes ad worked on this one PR style video. Now let's try it on a single image. Let's try it with a line of all of our products. Let's just pump the shit out of Forbes. Okay, guys, which is the winner? 1, 2, or 3? And it's 3. We finally outbeat the Forbes ad. It took months to outbeat the original Forbes ad, but we were able to outbeat it with this still image. And so we were like, okay, well, at least we know that we have other creative that works, because that's something really important about Facebook, that there is such thing as creative fatigue. You can't ride on the same creative forever. So we were really happy we found another variation of Forbes that worked. So now we're diving even deeper into this concept. We're testing still images. Now we're just testing different colors of the background, trying different products, still using the same Forbes quote. And something we realized, which I think is important to point out in the last slide, it wasn't the fact that we just used the Forbes logo. I think it was the fact that we actually utilized the quote from Lauren Bosworth explaining how she's revolutionizing female care. That was a real game changer in this. So we're utilizing the same quote, same format. Any guesses? I haven't heard the right answer yet. You're right, it's 4. So the killer is one of their most popular products. So this actually wasn't surprising that the killer was the most popular product on Facebook with this quote. So now we're getting very granular with our testing. Now we're just testing product in versus product out and placement of the quote. And the winner of this was product out. So the reason I show you this is because sequencing is important. You can't just go to this result from 0 to 100. You have to start broad, testing different creative types, and then slowly narrowing in to determine what is the performance factor. And for here, we found that the Forbes quote was really the significant factor. So yes, to this day, we are still running Forbes across 90% of this account. Hopefully, we'll be able to outbeat Forbes one day. So how we were able to do this, and this is what I want all of you guys to test out on your own ad accounts, is dynamic creative testing. So this is what I talked about in the Power 5. Dynamic creative testing allows you to upload 10 different videos or image assets, 5 different headlines, and 5 different texts. And Facebook will dynamically test all the different variations. So that's hundreds of variations. And you can do that on a small budget. And what you can do on the ad set level is you can say, my CPA target is $10 or whatever it is. And Facebook will find someone in your broad audience through all these different variations who are going to convert at your CPA target. The way that the old Facebook buying used to be is we would have to build out all of these hundreds of variations equally. And that is just so laborious and time consuming. But by utilizing Facebook's machine learning, now you can just upload your variations and let Facebook do the heavy lifting for you. So you can focus on making more creative variations and messaging testing. So this brings me to the next point. So this is another one of Love Wellness's best performing ads. Vaginas aren't complicated, period. I debated if I was going to say that in this speech. Never said vaginas in public before. But this is so important as Facebook media buyers or any owner of a brand. And this goes back to the why. Why should someone care? Focus less on tactical Facebook buying decisions and more on focusing on marketing messaging. So utilizing dynamic creative testing, you can test different value props, see what people care about. For this ad, we tested a bunch of different headlines for this one product, and we found that this was the best performer. And you're able to do this very quickly through dynamic creative testing. So I have another quiz, which I won't make you guys shout out because it's just going to be mumble jumbles. But this is just to show you all the different audiences that we tested for this account. And if anyone can guess what was the best performing audience? Some of you guys already saw this. The best performing audience was broad female. So just going back, we broke this up into 1,000 different splices of different interests and lookalikes that we can target. But the best audience was just telling Facebook, my customer is female, go find them. Don't work harder than you have to. So key takeaways. First of all, Facebook is smarter than you, but that's not a bad thing. Utilize Facebook's machine learning so that you can focus on the why of your creative and focus less on tinkering. Hypothesis testing is going to be the key to solving your ad account. I'm going to be available after all the speeches to answer any questions, so please come find me after because I would love to talk e-commerce with all of you. Thank you.
Hold on. Okay, so Sav, that was a lot of awesome material, but the whole process of sequencing the decision making and how I decide which to test and when, like, is there a way that I could get access to learning that in detail in a specific format from you after this?
Yeah, for sure. So all of you guys who entered your email, you'll be getting 5 different videos of how to utilize the Power 5. But also something that Common Thread Collective offers is a program called Admission. So what this is a subscription model where you can download all the different courses that we have to offer that explains more into dynamic creative testing, all of our default account structures, the way that we test creatives. So you can get access to all of that through our Admission program. So if you want to ask me or Taylor about Admission after this, that'd be a great way to get more in depth about some of these topics.
Awesome. Thank you, Saf. Thank you so much. We can't tell you how serious we are about creative being the variable that unlocks performance. And as you can see, this isn't about creating massive variations in outcomes in creative. You may be sitting there going, I'm a one-person team. We're talking about color changes. We're talking about text on image subtleties. And the differences in outcomes is massive. It's massive. And the key really here is, then we've heard this from Facebook over and over again, is that it's not just about the quality of creative, it's about the volume of creative that you're producing. is that if you think about each ad that you create as having the potential of a stock, of a diversified portfolio, if you will, right? The more ads you have, the more opportunity, as somebody who's in the ad account, you have the opportunity to respond to what's working and scale. We talk about it sometimes in terms of pipes. Like we want to have as much delivery opportunity as we possibly can. Not just high performance, we want delivery opportunity. The more ads we have, the more potential that we have. And so what this hopefully shows you is that having thoughtful sequencing with controlled variables and small, subtle creative changes can fundamentally alter an account. It can change the entire thing. And why is it that Forbes, we can all hypothesize, we think Forbes is really meaningful versus Birdie, but if we started and you asked everybody on your team which PR thing matters for, you know what you're asking for? A bunch of subjective bias. This is the #1 problem with how we handle media buying traditionally, is that we allow subjective human bias into it all over the place. All over the place. I guarantee you, if we pulled up any ad account, and we have some really seasoned media buyers in this room, and I showed you, and I asked you as a human being to pull up Love Wellness's account, look past 7 days, and in 10 minutes, write down what you would do, you would all write down something different. Because as a human being processing without a calculator, a data set about past performance that you're going to try and determine causality about what will happen in the future is a fool's errand. I'm just telling you, if you think that people, human beings, can do this consistently and accurately, go to Las Vegas. There's an empire built on our foolishness, right? And if you have friends, I have friends that love this game. It's called the roulette run problem, right? Where they run around the casino finding 5 reds in a row and going, it's got to be black next. And that's their gambling strategy. It's a terrible idea. The odds of every spin are exactly the same. The reason they put that board there is to entice you to give them money. It's the same problem with media buying, is that media buyers, we all want to open up the account. And because I have to get on the phone with the client on Monday, and he's going to ask me, what did you do? Tell me what you did this week to make my account better. And the crazy thing is that most of the time the answer is nothing. I'm waiting for statistically significant data to make action. And what DCT and these other tools allow you to do is leverage what's valuable about Facebook, which is the machine learning that creates outcomes based on causality. It's a very hard thing to actually get to in statistics. So Sav is awesome. I recommend that you talk to her. You're going to be annoyed by her answers because she's just going to push you back to core truths. We all want hacks, but she's going to push you back to core truths, and that's why we win over time, over and over and over again. So next up, we're going to allow somebody on stage who's a little hackier, for those of you that know him. But we've edited his content to ensure it's consistent. But up next, we have our Director of Strategy at Common Thread Collective, Nick Shackelford. Any of you that are in the Facebook ad buyers group on Facebook of 50,000 people, he's one of the moderators. He's been in this space as media bot for some of the biggest brands in the world, for Apple, and as well as on our side for some of the biggest social explosions like Pup Socks and Diff Eyewear and all these different things that I'm sure have invaded your feed. And he's going to walk us through some really unique ways to use influencers in your paid funnels. Welcome, Nick.
Well, I can't really talk about the hacks I want to do because the rest of the team is going to be like, you did not fucking teach us that, so you can't use it. But what I'm going to be focused on is talking about influencers and how we can leverage it. It's 2019. Who believes influencers work? Okay. Who believes pay for post works? Okay. Still can. I think it will work. I think if it's a part of your entire strategy, if it's a part of your entire system of how you're buying ads, it will work. So what we're going to talk about today is obviously influencers as who they are, as people of influence, but also as people as content creators, people as cheap ways of getting content. How many of you guys have tens, 50, or even $100,000 lying around that you can spend? If you do, if your hand goes up, we're going to talk after. Let's put it this way. No, that's real though, because sometimes when we run campaigns and an influencer, we envision that they're going to be $30,000, $40,000. We've done campaigns with the Kardashians. It's not worth the dollar. It's not worth the headache. Chris is not that fun to work with. Let's be completely honest with you. But what does happen is when we are leveraging, let me make sure this is it. When we are leveraging influencers at the right time, at the right place of the funnel, it's 100% of the time going to work. It's just a matter of how you execute. So whatever you hear from me, it always works for me. If you can't figure it out, that's on you. I'm so sorry. I'm kidding. So a little bit about who I am. My name is Nick Shackelford. I've been doing this for about 6 to 7 years, and I used to be much more attractive and much thinner back in these days. So I was a professional soccer player for the LA Galaxy. It was a short-lived career because I realized I couldn't trade time for money. Trading time for money is no way that we're going to get to where we want to be, because a lot of us have more dreams, or else it wouldn't be a Tuesday and you guys would be here in Shopify in LA. We all know we got traffic. So I appreciate you guys all being here for one. I learned that I needed to leverage my ability of speaking, my ability to building connections, and how that relayed to consumers selling online. I started working for Apple 2017. I realized that they didn't care about how many dollars I spent. All they cared about is how many eyes and views were going. They were handing us budgets of hundreds of thousands, and all they cared about was how many people are going to upgrade from an iPhone 4 to an iPhone 5. That was the only conversion we ever monitored, was how many people were turning in their phones. Guess how we got that data? From the stores. It took us a very long time to realize, oh, this money wasn't working. What happened then is we got very, very fortunate of being in the right place, right time with the trend. How many of you, actually you guys are all young enough, how many of you guys still have fidget spinners? Good, good. I appreciate you buying that at that time. We like to joke, in 2017 we launched Fidgetly, which went to send, it's sad now to talk about it because it's no longer available, but we did very, very well in a short period of time. And we learned real quick is I have an innate ability of finding products that sell at a high margin for everybody in a direct to consumer play. And how do we replicate this across other brands? So I'd set out to figure out, how do we do it for everybody else? Where you find us today is 2018, 2019, where we've been able to help direct to consumer brands that are, like Taylor said, between 0 and 20 million. And that's who we like to serve today. So what we're going to talk about next is we're going to get right into how we leverage influencers from micro to macro, so we're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars without testing it first. We get into it a little bit before us, and this is a stat that we worked with Facebook for us to kind of come through it. A lot of the team internally doesn't like this because it knows that we have to do a lot of output of content, a lot of output of creative to figure out what's going to crack the offer, what's going to crack the brand. And when we spend amount of time on iterating and testing through whether it's dynamic creative ads or whatever testing habits you're doing, then you need to understand that this is when the unlocking, this is when scale actually happens, because ad fatigue is real. Ad fatigue is real. We're not going to talk too much about it, but how we get there is by creating native content to the platform. Content that works on IG is not the same content that works on FB. It's plain and simple. We always design with one thing in mind, which is going to be square, mobile first, because that's how we're engaging with a lot of our content. So with that being said, is it consumer aligned? Are they at the right spot of the funnel for me to kind of present and show my creative for them? Or do they need a little bit more education? Do they need to be more enthralled with what the brand is about before we can show them a value proposition, right? Understanding exactly where they're going to be allows us to send the right message at the right time. Lastly, it's got to be thumb stopping. It's got to be convincing enough for someone to take a stop and look through it. How many of you guys have purchased from an ad before? When you did so, what made you stop? Was it the price point? Maybe. Was it a testimonial? Most likely. A lot of the brands that we work with, they win for a couple of reasons. They have the price that makes sense for us, and it's recommended by somebody that we trust. That's the main core reason why we do what we do, because at the end of the day, we are humans, and we're trying to connect with those that have a product that solves a problem that I am feeling right this moment. And so with that understood, influencers at the micro level, and I'll define that shortly, are the easiest way of convincing, hey, I do need that product. I actually do think that this will solve my issue. So how does it work for us? Why we believe that micro to macro, and the people that identified this, the people that are building the strategies and running this, are a team that we work with on a daily basis. They're called kinship. There's one individual here. I'm going to ask him to raise his hand right now. If you have questions about how this happens, if you have anything else, I didn't ask yet. Okay, now we go. This is Cody Wittick. This is one of our men that works with us, and he's been leading the strategy on how this works, finding out that this is actually the easiest way for brands to enter and dip the toe into what influencer marketing will work. If you have any questions, he's the right man to talk about. But why we like to go micro first, specifically, is you're going to get a more cost-effective play. You're going to understand that you're going to get more pieces of creative, and they're going to be easier to work with. Simple comping against this. If you have an influencer that might be Kim, right? She has different attributes. She might be curvy. She might have nice lips, etc. I don't necessarily can afford her, but if I wanted to afford her, I'm going to find someone that looks very similar to what she's about. She's going to check the boxes enough for me to know, okay, depending on where we're going to go, depending on what that click-through is going to be, depending on what the potential revenue will be, it's worth my investment to then shell out the big bucks. But until we get there, we got to start micro. As soon as something works, we take a wide approach. So we work with the brand to go, hey, what are you looking for? Who do you need? What industry specifically do you want to talk about? We're going to circle them. We're going to find out that they're going to hit multiple different areas for us. If you want to just talk about, she has great following, she has a great personality, she's able to speak to the value propositions, that's more than enough for us to understand that this might potentially work. Second, after we launch the campaign, we're going to be scattering a larger net, about 10 to 15 influencers in the same range. Think about the pieces of content you're going to get here. Enough pieces of content that you can replicate it at every step of the funnel. Second, once we understand that, hey, that is working, what do we do next? We have a template for you there. We'll let you read it in a second. We're going to measure and we're going to identify how to scale this strategically, and not just through the posts, not just through the lifts that you have on platform. Correct. Last would be larger scaling to the lookalikes that we like to leverage behind it. This is a tactic that we'll be able to talk to once we get to the account setup. This is a screenshot slide. This is for everybody that ever gives a crap about wanting to do this for themselves. This is how we reach out. This is how we engage with them, and this is exactly how we get the close rates of wanting the micro influencers to work with us. Typically, when we do this on stage in the bigger auditoriums, this is a little cramped. This is where all the phones come out, they take the shots, and I know that's how us as speakers understand that we're doing what we're doing, is because the amount of phones come up in the air. So I appreciate the love of the pictures. And moving on. So what happens? You want to know? You'll get the slides. So now what happens? We launch, we go live. We've already identified 10 to 20 micros. At this point, we need them to create the content. They're going to create it for us. We're going to let them do the thing, because why do we embrace them in the first place? Because they have a captivating audience and they know how to speak to them. Let them do their job. Second, they're always going to get their own specific product. We're trying to trade them product first, because we don't really necessarily want to go out of pocket. We will if we believe that this influencer is going to move the needle for us, for sure. But if not, we're definitely going to be enticing them with product first. Lastly, we always go with an IG story swipe up. Raise a hand. Who wants to take a guess as to why we go this way first? Why? Fluid. It's fluid. What does fluid mean? It's so easy, right? It's a simple swipe up. We're already on the landing page. Now, there's a couple of steps, and I had it in a couple of slides before, but time got cut short. Facebook or Instagram specifically made it very easy for shareable content with that new DM button that you're able to send to friends. So creating content nowadays is so much easier shared, especially on the feed. What happens next? Every single influencer we launch with are wrapped with UTM codes. Now, there's other tools that you can use. You can use Reversion. You can use, what else will we use? UTM is our main thing we would use. I would go Reversion if you're on Shopify specifically. But we're getting all the data straight back to what we're trying to do through here on our GA dashboard. GA stands for Google Analytics. I'm not going to play with sound, but she's showing off the product very, very clearly. There's a nice little, how would you say, script that we like to run with. In the first 2 to 3 seconds, that's when product's being shown. After that, very convincing call to action at the end. I don't know if I would end with this face, though. Lastly, what happens next? So the main thing that we like to leverage with influencers is when they're launched, we get access to 2 things. Some of you might have already known this. Everybody, if you create a business page, that business page allows you access to audiences that are created. Those audiences that you create are now warm audiences. What happens with warm traffic? Convert at a higher rate. So we're able to tap into the influencers network, which I'll show you in the next couple of steps, which gives us access to their audiences. Access to the audiences are now the main reason why we want to prove scale. And for those of you already spending 10, 15, 20,000, an extra additional audience on a warm audience is way worth that scale. You're going to get plenty of dollars out of that. So how does it look, right? So if I were to zoom in a little bit more, we're in the audience section. We're able to navigate towards what influencer we want to choose because they've given us access. From that access, we're choosing the actions that they took, whether it's engaging with the page or the content or video viewers specifically, choosing how big that audience is going to be. Now, what happens when you do pay for post? I'm going to do a little PIP right now. When you pay for post, do you have control over where these people are going to go? What happens if you have a bunch of followers and it's in Mumbai? It's rough. I guarantee you all you guys that bought all your followers, similar to me, they're definitely like, my engagers go wild. Engagers go absolutely. Say it again. Yeah. Guess what I'm gonna get as a brand? I'm gonna get nothing but Mumbai followers. And I'm gonna get purchasers that are not necessarily gonna be my demographic. But the blessing is that once we get access to the Facebook page, guess what we get access to? All the targeting you need. Everything you wanna use, everything you wanna actually leverage. Maybe I have a strong core demographic in California. I definitely wanna be marketing towards them. How is the account set up? So this is an easy picture for us to see. Step one, each influencer is gonna get its own isolated funnel. What I mean by this is we've already given influencer A that product, right? Influencer A has the product. He or she is then gonna speak about whatever value propositions that they are gonna be showing. We're gonna follow it up with potentially a second value prop from them. Hey, you've already purchased product A. Guess what? I'm really interested in product B. What would it look like visually, right? What would it actually look like? What's the experience? Now that we've worked with influencers, I think it's really clear for us to understand that it's not necessarily about the content that they're putting out, but it's the content that we can create and take and put it for the rest of the funnel. That landing page, people don't remember that if you're showing them experience and they touch the ad and the influencer themselves is convincing you to be here, the second touch you need to have that congruency on page. From the congruency on page, guess where else this can live? On that follow-up confirmation email, because you know you just bought Susie's favorite bra. What are our results? This is the easiest way for us to convince this. 4x return through this entire funnel unpacked, great brand, unbelievable basics. $18 cost per acquisition versus our target challenge was $35. It's unbelievable success, and I unfortunately have to admit, Taylor Holiday was running this campaign, and the old man doesn't run traffic that often, but when he does, it works. Where else can we show this? This is something that we get a lot of questions at. If we're already gonna pay for the content, we're free to use it. There's a funny word we like to use, which is called perpetuity. That word does a lot good for you. So if you are writing contracts, perpetuity needs to be every single place necessary. If I were to give you the final key takeaways, influencers are not necessarily ROI driven. They're content creators at a very efficient rate that your team doesn't have to stress, that your team doesn't have to manage, or your team doesn't have to book space anywhere. Leverage this as much as you can, give them the talking points, and from there, let them be themselves. Shareable content that doesn't strain your team. What is the number one when we work with brands, the hardest thing for them to understand is where do we get more content? Are you gonna create it? Are we gonna create it? Are we gonna pay for it? Your influencers can do the same. Yeah, you might pay a little bit dollars out of it, but the stress, time, the convenience is way worth it. And lastly, the reusability. You can put this throughout the entire funnel, and people always forget this. If I were to go anywhere with it, I would like to say thank you guys for obviously paying attention, listening. My handle is this. I'm all about the shares. If you want to follow me, it's all worth it. Thank you so much for your guys' time.
Stay here. Come back in the lines. Come back in the lines. Thanks, Nick. So you said in the beginning that we don't have to spend a bunch of money to pull this off, but 10 to 20 influencers, running paid media, building a bunch of funnels. What is actually possible in terms of an entry point to pull a campaign like this off?
That's a great question. I think I'd be correct, Cody, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're getting away with less than $5,000 to $10,000 for 10 to 20 pieces of content. Yeah. On average, is it anything for? It's not always just story swipe ups. It could be everything, correct? Yeah, and we like to start with stories because again, it's like it was announced to us, this is an easier barrier to entry, and we can easily track those swipe ups. Yep. So simple.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, boss.
Awesome. So one of the things that as we think about influencers is that we want to identify their understanding of cost structures. Okay. So if I'm trying to pay for an influencer, I want to understand the metrics that they use to determine their value and price themselves, right? And so the reason that we have moved from thinking about influencers as access to audience distribution into content creators is all about arbitraging their value. Influencers want to price themselves relative to audience, right? So if I think about organic reach numbers, which are just on a hard plane like this, right? And someone tells me they cost X because they have this many followers, I do not care because I can access that audience in a paid standpoint for a much lower CPM. The audience is a commodity at this point. I don't care. And in fact, just like Nick said, the likelihood that your audience actually overlaps directly with my customer is very low. And I would rather just target conversion-based audiences than deal with your audience. So the way that we think about influencers is primarily as content creators, not as access to audience. They're great salespeople, people that create content at a lower price. If you guys are going to go pay an agency like us to create video content for you, it's expensive. It's expensive. But influencers who know how to build social content, they've been doing it, that's how they got their following in the first place, and are great content creators, that's where the underpriced asset is them as content creators, and then you getting page access and running these funnels that Nick's describing off the back of it. That's how you arbitrage the value of influencers, way more so. There's very rare cases, and there still are some, like we have a client company called Craftsy, which is now called Blueprint, which is like they make knitting tutorials. Well, there are women that have cultivated a really strong audience related to knitting. And in that case, the overlap is really strong and the audience matters. So I don't want to discard it, but I think about like a lot of like in beauty or products, a lot of times female influencers have large male audiences. Right? That's not what I want to pay for if I'm selling skincare to women using this female beauty influencer, right? So I have to think about that overlap and really be consistent about it. So this is critically important, and influencers still have a lot of value, but you have to constantly be arbitraging what they think their cost is versus what you as a marketer want, and what are the best tools available to utilize them. So talk to Nick about that. Talk to Cody. His team at Kinship does a great job of helping you to identify those people, walk you through that funnel. So the last thing we're going to talk about before we do a Q&A is I'm going to bring up Andrew Faris. Andrew runs our 4x400. Come on up. 4x400 is the department of our business where we own and operate our business. Yeah, we can give me some. So Andrew was sort of my right-hand guy. We've been working together for 5 years now, and like there's something so incredibly freeing about knowing that somebody is the duplicate plus of your brain working on things. And so Andrew ran all of growth at CTC, and then we took him and put him on our own brands because he has an incredibly powerful mind for solving unique ways to build scale and growth for brands. And this funnel that he's created, this influencer giveaway funnel, is one of the best tools I've seen for creating advertising scale in a long time. So go get him, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, Taylor. This is a very fun event to be at. I know I speak for all of our team. I just say thanks for coming and for hanging out with us. You never know when you put on an event if it's just going to be you and your team there. Ultimately, no matter how much marketing you do and no matter how much you're professional marketers and should know better, but it's just awesome. So I know also I was standing in the back and watching some notes come out, and that's just so fun. Like nobody has all of the answers in all of this stuff, and we're all learning and picking up from each other. And I'll tell you, when I started with working with Taylor, I came from a totally non-marketing background. And so I still remember the first conversation I had about marketing with him. He was a fast-growing, at Kalo, he mentioned earlier, the silicone ring company. And it was very fast-growing, and it wasn't funded. So you just kind of find whoever's around and put them into different positions in your company when that happens, you know? And so I was whoever was around at the time, and he sat down with me and said, okay, you've got a mind for numbers. We were in a fantasy baseball league together, and so that's how he knew that. And I kept beating him, and so then he understood. So anyway, so he said, I'm going to teach you digital marketing. And so we sat down in a Starbucks in a bank, and he said to me, okay, so here's how this works, right? Facebook ads and Google ads, you can use these tools to get customers into the funnel. And then when customers get into the funnel, you can use, and I stopped him and I said, what's the funnel? And that was like where my marketing knowledge started, right? And I still remember he grabbed a napkin and like showed, oh, people come in and then they buy stuff. So anyway, so that's kind of where it started for me. So it's just like we've been there, like Taylor said, we've walked journeys in lots of different ways, whether it's like very fast growing companies and coming from lots of background with this to MBAs and analytics to all kinds of other stuff. And so please, when this is done, when this Q&A is done, if there's anything we can be helpful for, we're passionate about that. We really mean it. We really care about it, and we really want to help you. So yeah, so all that to say, thanks for being here. Just a little more on kind of my background and kind of what I do now. I have been around. I'm going to move this so I don't have to keep looking back. I was the VP of Growth, Head of Strategy at CTC for a while. Like Taylor said, I moved over to our side of the business, 4x400. 4x400 owns and operates 3 different consumer goods brands right now, FC Goods, Slick Products, and Bamboo Earth in 3 very different spaces. This is my FC Goods wallet. The front of this here is made from a vintage baseball glove. the back of this is made from leather. So we sold a lot of these at Father's Day and are growing that company right now. That's been a lot of fun. Very, very different. Bamboo Earth is super clean organic skincare. Go buy some. And then the Slick Products is the company I want to talk about mostly tonight, which is wash products for off-road vehicles. So again, 3 completely different spaces. We did not pick them based on their overlap. We get no help from sharing audiences, influencers, collabs, none of that, which is dumb. We should have thought better about that. So I want to tell you tonight about what I think is my favorite Facebook ad strategy I have seen in a while, and I think has some of the most upside to take your account to a whole new level. I want to tell you from the outset, it assumes everything you just heard in those previous 2 talks. It assumes that you find the right influencers the right way. It assumes that influencers are primarily content creators, not content distributors, and that organic social you have to be really smart about to get value out of it. It also assumes that as you scale, anything you do in this situation, you should do it according to all the machine learning you can. And so that way you're relying on algorithms and robots and not your very faulty brain or my very faulty brain. Here's the core of the idea. The best way I currently know of to utilize influencers on paid social, once you've done everything that Nick said, basically, and you want to take it to another level, is to amplify giveaways with conversion optimized ads. The result, if you do it right, is that you will generate large volumes of cheap traffic, massive email list growth, and profitable ROAS all at the same time, which is pretty good. Those are all things that you want. A little background on what the brand is here. The brand is Slick Products, like I said, wash products for off-road vehicles, dirt bikes, ATVs, UTVs, that sort of thing. The customer then is a dirt bike rider, ATV rider, enthusiast level kind of people. It's used actually at the very top of the sport, and so we've worked with a lot of different influencers. That includes, if you're any kind of a motocross or supercross fan, you know some of these names probably. Ricky Carmichael, who's the GOAT in motocross. He's the greatest motocross rider of all time. He's actually a partner in our company. And then also, among others, these guys, Austin Faulkner and Adam Cianciarulo, who are also pro riders. These are a few of the influencers we've done this with. And whose pages we've used. It's just not all of them, but that's a few of the main ones. I want to walk you through exactly what I'm doing in this in a few steps. So I want to start by showing you the exact giveaway funnel. And in this case, there's not really much tricky about it. It's pretty simple. You're going to start with your giveaway content, some piece of social content that is promoting some kind of a giveaway, and I'm going to show you that in a second. From there, you're going to send the customer to a landing page that's got an email capture up at the top, and then from there, you're going to enter them into an automated email flow. That is very simple, very standard way to do a giveaway. I'm going to walk you through it anyway, just in case you haven't seen this done, and then I'm going to show you how we take that and kind of turn it up to 11. So the giveaway content, I don't think we have sound, so I won't be able to show you this exactly, but this is Austin Faulkner, and I'm going to tell you outright, Austin Faulkner, we do have sound? Oh, all right, okay. So let's watch this. We don't have sound. What about it? That's right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Thanks. And the thing is, I'm going to be better at it than Austin Faulkner is. What I want you to know from the outset here about Austin Faulkner is that he's pretty terrible on camera, and that's important to recognize, because I'm going to show you some results in a second, and you're going to realize how much more possibility there is if you can really dial some of this stuff in. Austin gives away 2 things: a signed jersey, an Austin Faulkner signed jersey, and that's the first thing he promotes in this video. The second thing he promotes is the Slick Products Ultimate Wash Kit, which is our very best product. That Slick Kit is everything you would need to wash your off-road vehicles and your car, all wrapped up into one thing. And so somebody's going to enter his giveaway. He's going to post this on his page. We're just talking organic so far. And he's going to then take that, and the reason those 2 things are in that order is very simple. The first is that a Slick or a signed Austin Faulkner jersey matters to Austin Faulkner's fans, right? So it's something of value to them uniquely that he can provide. Secondly, he's going to then talk about and endorse our product, which his team really does use, so it's totally legitimate. And so Faulkner's going to hit both of those in order. The customer then enters the giveaway. Let's see, by clicking through. In his case, I think he had a link tree on his post. We also promoted it, of course, on Slick's page as well, in both places. And the Customer clicks through, goes to this landing page, very, very simple design. We repeated the video on the top of the page because there was gonna be some traffic getting there from some other ways, but email capture right on top of the page. You submit your email, you get a quick confirmation on page, thanks, you've submitted your email. And then this is really important, right after that is a bunch of product info. Because obviously once we've gotten them to our page, we wanna educate them about why Slick is good for them. It's pretty likely that if you're an Austin Faulkner fan, you ride something off-road somewhere. We have a product for you. And so we want to just kind of introduce people to that. And this is where if the influencer can really sell your product hard, I think there's really big upside. For if he comes out and says, this thing is really awesome, you should check it out, then I think you could do a lot of stuff there. So I'll show you some results in a second, like I said. But yeah. So product info, don't forget to pixel the page, of course. If you're running Facebook ads, you should know to pixel the page because obviously you can remarket off of that audience. From there, automated email flow. This is the way we've done it so far. Again, I think there's a lot you could play with here. The first email that the customer is going to get back is a thank you for entering. Amazingly, people really want to know for sure that they entered. So I don't understand exactly why, but these emails always get opened at extraordinarily high rates. And so again, if you have somebody's attention, give them some product information as well, something like that in the email. From there, some more product information, that sort of thing. And if they haven't bought yet, especially maybe you come with a discounted offer, some kind of an offer. It doesn't have to be discount. There's a lot of ways you could do it, but some kind of special offer there. After all of that, make sure somewhere you tell people you're going to announce the winner via email, because that way when the email comes out and says, and the winner is as a subject line, they're going to open that one also. And again, they're going to open that at a very, very high rate. Cool. Can I get like a head nod saying everything is pretty clear so far? Even if it's not true, I would still appreciate that. Thanks. It's helpful when you're speaking. The first thing I want to show you is that this already works. It already works. Just as a way of using organic social, this already works. This is the Google Analytics for Slick products, just social traffic over the periods of time that we ran a few of these. What you can see here is that all of our spikes are from people entering these giveaways from social traffic. It's pretty hard. If somebody knows a better way to do this than me, awesome. Because I find it's very hard to actually use organic social to drive traffic. You can do a lot of other stuff with organic social. It's really good for your brand, really important, but it's hard, I think, to drive traffic. And so these spikes really matter to us a lot. The only spike, this only spike that's not this one of these giveaways is a sale. And so that's the only way that we were getting traffic besides that in significant measure relative to our usual. A couple things here. 75% of the people who clicked through and got to that page gave me an email address. And then of that entire flow, we got about a 40% open rate on the email. So if you could do those things right, you can collect a lot of email addresses fast. Okay, that's a pretty simple giveaway. There's not magic there. That's maybe just an e-commerce best practice in working with an influencer, something you can try. Here's where I think you can take this and really do something special with it. If I was building this to start, my first thought would be to take all of that, and maybe you guys are ahead of me a little, but to turn it into some lead gen ads. That's kind of like the obvious thing you would do. Take that traffic and say, okay, we want to generate email addresses, so bid for email addresses. And of course, you can optimize for those in Facebook, or even for website clicks, so you can get huge volumes of super cheap clicks. But I'm not primarily interested in email addresses, and I'm not primarily interested in traffic. I'm primarily interested in revenue. And so what I want to do is figure out how to take people's interest in this giveaway and turn it into dollars. That's the goal. So what I did is I took that and turn it into a purchase optimized ad. By conversion optimized here, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying bid for a custom conversion email capture on the next landing page. I'm saying bid for purchase. In this case, what you can see is what we did is we took this. Now, this shop now is actually a mistake. That should say learn more, but somebody did it wrong, probably me. And the headline, though, nonetheless says win a free signed Austin Faulkner giveaway. The rest of this copy says nothing about buying a product. It's all just promoting the giveaway. And what I thought might happen if we did this right, we plugged this into the exact same flow. So they're going to end up on the same landing page, and they're going to get the same exact email flow. Here's what I thought would happen. The sort of hypothesis that I was trying when I tried this idea was I could generate much cheaper traffic than I usually could with conversion optimized bidding. We've talked about CPMs rising and the challenge of doing that. Like when I look back to the ads I was running 4 years ago, like I still have those accounts. I sucked at this. I was so bad, and yet we made money hand over fist because CPMs were a quarter of the cost that they are now. And that's not the case anymore. purchase optimized traffic is important, just regular kind of sell your product, the stuff that Savannah was showing earlier. You can make a lot of money doing that very, very well. But it's probably not going to be mostly based on getting really cheap traffic. And so my thought was, could I get a lot of traffic cheaper than usual? Because the customer doesn't know that I'm conversion optimizing. They just see win a free signed jersey, right? So I'm going to try and get them to click to go win a free signed jersey. And that's that. Secondly, I thought I could collect a lot of email addresses because, again, I'm going to qualify those email addresses by making sure they click through that page. They have to go actually enter it. And at the same time, it's just people are going to be excited about this kind of giveaway with all the cheap traffic I'm getting. If I'm converting a lot of that email address, is great. And the hope was that I could subsidize the traffic and the email addresses. And of course, the traffic also has remarketing value. I could subsidize all of that by getting just enough ROAS to get by, basically to make it worth continuing. Does that make sense? I could sort of get enough people to click through, and through my email flows and through my landing page, it's going to take them to the page. I'd convert enough of it to be willing to keep spending money on it. Because the problem with lead gen bidding a lot of the times is that if you've ever tried this strategy, it sounds awesome in theory to say, I'm going to collect a bunch of email addresses and then within 15 automated emails, I'm going to convert them. And I've heard of people winning that way, but not very many. It's a pretty hard game. And the reason why is that you're getting all kinds of email addresses from all kinds of places, and you're not necessarily getting people interested in purchasing your product. You're getting people interested in giving you an email address. What we've done by conversion optimizing the audience is taking all of the people that Facebook says are most likely to buy products and try to collect their email addresses. And that's really important, right? Because now I don't just have an email address, I have a purchase optimized email address. And so the hope is that I can scale that. Here's what happened. We've tried this 5 times so far. You see the total spend so far is not gigantic. There's a lot of testing to be done here. The Casey Curry and Boss Audio I didn't walk through. There were lower spends for us, and there are different kinds of things. Boss Audio is a collab, and Casey Curry is a truck driver, or an off-road truck driver. But we spent a lot more of it on this dirt bike audience. And what we found was we got very, very cheap traffic. Relatively speaking, this is all prospecting, all click-only attribution. If you're not in the weeds and you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. If you are, you'll understand what I'm saying. And what we ended up collecting that was most interesting in this is that not only are we getting relatively close and at the best 2 to 1 on our prospecting ads, but we're getting 75-cent email addresses. And that is really valuable for me long-term. And here's some of the ways that worked out. Just by way of comparison to the rest of this account, our CPC is about 40% cheaper than kind of our evergreen ads at the same time that we were running over the same time period. Our ROAS is a touch worse, not a lot worse, just a little bit worse. And again, actually in our best performing campaigns, we were outperforming our regular ROAS. And in the midst of all of that, I'm collecting nearly 10 more email addresses per dollar I spend than I would if I was just getting them to my site and to my on-site pop-up. And that's really part of the key here. In the midst of running this, we ended up doubling our email address in about 2 weeks, our total email list in about 2 weeks. It was amazing. And the reason why that is so important is because while Facebook's only going to track your revenue from this for 28 days after the click, I'm going to track the revenue for a lot longer than that, right? So having a big email list full of conversion optimized people who have had a great first touch point with your product is a really, really valuable thing to have. Now, you may be asking, okay, Andrew, that sounds great. So why didn't you spend more money on it? And the answer to that question is because it didn't look that great at first. We calculate at CTC, a metric we call delayed attribution multiplier, DAM. And what that is Facebook shows you your revenue after your purchase 1, 7, and 28 days after somebody clicks on your ad, okay? So when you're in the middle of being an ad buyer and you are on day 1 after you've launched some new ads, you have to try to figure out the total value of your ads over the longer term. And so to do that, what we do is model out what we expect the value after the first day to be. Does that make sense? Again, even if it doesn't, can you nod yes just to help me out? Thank you. So what we do is say, what number do I multiply my 1-day ROAS by to get my 28-day ROAS? The usual for this account is, do I have that here? There. The usual for this account is about 1.25. So you'd take your 1-day ROAS, let's say it's 1 to 1, multiply it by 1.25 over the total time, you'd end up right around there. What we were getting in this case is a delayed attribution multiplier of almost 3. So we were tripling the value of the ads over the 28 days is what I'm saying, basically tripling the value of it. very clearly the reason why, oh, here it is kind of spread out, right? On one day click, if you're looking at this and you're an ad buyer, you're seeing 0.6 ROAS and you're going, oh my gosh, this is a failure, Andrew's an idiot, this is a stupid idea. And then over 7 days, you're thinking the same thing. But over the full 28 days, the revenue looks pretty good. And the reason why, very simply, does somebody understand why immediately? Yeah.
People are buying much later?
Yeah, why?
Because of the emails?
Yeah, right, because we got a few of them to buy right away, but then we have their email address and we're collecting them at super fast rates, exploding our email list. And so then people are buying over that time and Facebook's tracking all of that up to 28 days. This counts no value past 28 days. And I promise you there's more value after 28 days. I promise you there is. So in all of this, what I think we have ultimately is potentially a way to grow revenue very fast at some scale with the equity that you get from a serious influencer in your space, potentially, depending on how you do it, right? With large volumes of very cheap traffic and growing your email list very fast. There's work to be done on this, and so here's my challenge to you. Some of you guys, go try this. Try it a lot of different ways. Play with the email list, play with the content, or play with the email flow, play with the landing page, play with all of it. Try the offer differently, do a lot of different things. Somebody go figure this out, and then please tell me what you did once you made it work bigger. Thanks.
So we're not kidding when we say, like, so one of the things that we think a lot about in terms of with rising CPMs is everything we do has to have compounding value. If we're going to pay an influencer, we're going to get a piece of content. How many places can we use that content to make it worthwhile? Right? The same thing with this strategy is we're ROAS bidding, okay, we're winning, but we're collecting emails at a really high rate. We're loading up clicks at a cheaper rate for our remarketings at big moments, all sorts of different things. So this idea of compounding value is enormous. So my question for you is, Andrew, do I have to run this with an influencer as a giveaway? Could I not just give away anything?
Yeah, so the answer is I don't know. And whenever the answer to that question is I don't know, my second answer is test it. Like, I really think that the basic structure here is not dependent first and foremost on the influencer. It happens to be the case that an influencer can do a lot of other things with it, including the organic portion of it, which I think is helpful. You can maybe kind of game organic reach, but you could do that with your own people as well. People engage with those posts, and so that's a way to get kind of more organic reach than usual. But yeah, I think you should absolutely test this. We're playing with this right now a lot of different ways. I'll tell you, like, in full transparency, like, I'm actively working with my team to build like 4 different versions of this strategy across all of our brands. Some huge ones, like go hang out with Ricky Carmichael as a gigantic giveaway, all the way down to here's a free wallet. Enter your email address if you want to win this, an FC Goods wallet, that kind of thing. And I think there's different places in the funnel you could try it and all that stuff. I don't think it's dependent on the influencer to make it work. I think it's more dependent on doing a really good job at every step of the funnel.
So the second question I have is, why do you care about the cheap traffic?
I don't, on its own. The CPC, if you have happened to have followed any of CTC's content, you know that the brilliant Savannah Sanchez has done the math with her analytics brain to figure out that cheap clicks are not predictive of ROAS. It's one of the biggest misconceptions in digital advertising. They're just not. And the reason why is that most times traffic is priced according to its value. And so you a lot of times are getting that traffic. If it's cheap traffic, it's just like if you buy cheap stuff in the world, it's not that valuable, right? A lot of times. So a lot of times the cheap traffic actually isn't that valuable. The reason I care about it here is there's a few reasons. One of them is that because I'm getting such a high email capture rate, the cheaper that traffic comes, if I'm converting 75% of really cheap clicks on emails, I'm getting a lot of emails really, really fast. Secondly, I know I'm not going to convert this traffic at a very high level because I'm not getting them there telling them to buy my product. I'm telling them to win a free thing, right? So I'm not expecting to win it. So what I need to do is get as much of it as possible and convert a little bit of it, and that little bit of a large pool is going to be enough for me to win. And then beyond that, it also means I now have a big pixeled remarketing audience who've now been introduced to my product, and I can remarket them with other offers and those sorts of things as well. And I didn't pull the numbers here, but the remarketing audiences were very effective on these, not surprisingly at all. Right. Again, it's conversion optimized traffic. So one
of the concepts that we have to utilize and maximize this is think about your peak promotional moment. So for FC Goods, it's Father's Day, right? Father's Day is a huge moment for us. So we're going to next year run this giveaway at the end of April as a mechanism for stuffing our remarketing pipeline.
We're gonna do it in October because so is Christmas.
Leading into holiday, exactly. Load up on email addresses, load up on remarketing audiences for peak sales moments. So if you have a key promotion or a new product release, timing the giveaway ahead of those is a great way to load up on valuable audiences.
And again, the problem with doing that, if you just run this for lead gen, the problem with doing that is for a lot of you, my guess is you can't front the cash for the email addresses. You know the email addresses over the long term are really valuable to you, but you can't just go spend all your money on a whole bunch of email addresses if they're going to recoup value in 180 days or something like that, right? So the beauty of the strategy is that, like I said, you subsidize the email address with the ROAS. And so that way you're collecting dollars on it pretty fast still. And now you can sort of pay for the cost of the next round of email addresses as you go, if that makes sense.
Yep, totally. So we have a client that we worked with. They're an LA-based company called Omaze. I don't know if you guys have heard of this company. So they do awesome giveaways. That's their entire business model. Is they have big celebrity is how they started, with some charity, and they give away some incredible event. And these guys are content creators, so they were great. Like they did like Arnold Schwarzenegger riding around in a tank, and they would do these comedic things between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they were great content creators, and they built a really big brand. I'm talking raising money at multiple $100 million valuations off the back of influencer giveaways for charity, all using similar methodology. But what they have pivoted almost their entire business to is they are now see themselves as going after the lottery market. And so they've switched to giveaways of just really rad things, disassociating it from the influencer. Ferraris, $6 million homes, elaborate trips, these massive giveaways, and it has like increased the size of their business like 10x. Like they are exploding. So part of the premise we have is that the influencer might be important, but the object of the giveaway is also really, really important. It's the intrigue of the object and its overlap with your audience. Now, the thing you want to be careful of is if you're selling beauty products, don't give away a Ferrari, right? Just like with influencers. But if we have a fashion brand that's looking for elite bi-coastal audiences, maybe New York Fashion Week and a trip could, independent of an influencer, could be really valuable.
Yeah, like for these guys, we're talking about like if you're into a wallet made out of a vintage baseball glove, like what if we send you to the Hall of Fame or something, right? Like then, you know, the influencer doesn't matter. We're just buying your plane tickets somewhere, which actually it's not that expensive.
Really cheap.
It may actually be cheaper than buying an influencer in some ways, depending on how you do it. We happen to have great relationships with Slick, so yeah, the influencer is helpful, but
yeah, sending people on rad vacations relative to paying influencers actually isn't that expensive. Like you can get plane flights and tickets in a hotel for $2,500. So so this is a really powerful thing. Thank you, Andrew. Stay here. We're gonna have everybody else come back up.
And hey, if somebody tries this, will you please tell me and let me know? My Twitter's right there. Please, please, please tell me. I really want to make it work.
So lots of different strategies, lots of different things that we shared with you guys tonight. Stepping back into my lane. But now what we'd love to do is hear from you. What do you guys want to know? What are you currently doing on your own ad accounts? What questions do you have? What do you think didn't make sense? Call us to the mat on something that you've heard, seen different. We're here for it. Nothing that we love more to do than argue about Facebook advertising. So what questions do we have? We'll have a mic to pass around to you and go from there.
So Facebook, as you said, they changed like some algorithm like a couple months ago. So did the conversion improved in general?
I would say it's volatile, and that's something that we've been dealing with a lot. Facebook's changed their algorithm so that they want a more simplified account structure, less creatives, less ad sets. So we did have to majorly restructure all of our accounts to match this Power 5. Once they were able to do that, we were able to see a lot lower CPAs and better ROAS once we were able to adapt to the Power 5. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a struggle at first. The constant algorithm changes in Facebook, I would say, is our biggest struggle at the agency.
Yeah, I think one of the things to always think about is what is Facebook's incentive? Is that if you can match your incentive to the platform, you're going to have better luck. So the more you understand what it is that they're after and what they're trying to do. So when they say things like, we really want to make sure you're engaging with content from people in your network that you love. Well, what does our job become? Serve them content from people in your network that you love, right? So when we say human-based networks, part of that is us just following the pattern of what Facebook says matters, because Facebook, their business is ad inventory. Ad inventory is based off of app usage. App usage, they have a giant data set that determines the stuff that people consume, the stuff that they engage with, and they want to serve them more of that. So we just want to play the same game. So it's going to constantly change. You can't be afraid of change, can't be angry about it, keep going, keep matching what they're doing.
Do we have them?
So I had a question about the giveaway strategy. Loved it, but I'm wondering, a lot of times people that give you an email and giveaway are freebie seekers.
Yeah.
Do you find those emails that you generate, that massive amount of emails, do they actually convert after the fact, or do you end up having to just prune those out?
So repeat the question for the webinar, will you?
Yeah, sure. So the question is exactly the right question, which is by getting people, by bringing people in on the mechanism of a free thing, aren't you getting people who are interested in free things and not purchasers, and therefore those email addresses are not valuable to you? That's exactly why I don't lead gen bid it. It's exactly why I purchase optimize it, because first of all, Facebook is pre-qualifying that traffic as people who are interested in buying things online, right? So that's a huge portion of it. Secondly, what I'll say is like the ROAS, including the delayed attribution, sort of answers that question, I think. That was the way it would go wrong if it went wrong, I think. But because we're seeing the delayed attribution happen, that's matching to my now Klaviyo data, formerly MailChimp. And so, yeah, so we're seeing those email addresses convert for sure. Also, if I was a better email marketer, I think I could do it even better.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. The key is what he's saying is the audience that you're filtering out those people.
Does that make sense? Great, yep.
Hi, thank you all for such wonderful information. First of all, when you talked about the giveaways that are done by influencers but linked to a charity, and you mentioned how the influencers or the prize needs to be, related to your audience. Does also the charity need to be related to your audience, or does it really matter? So
I was just clarifying. Omaze is a company that specifically their entire business model is built on 50% of the proceeds going to charity. So that's their entire business model. So they do the best, generally speaking, they're grabbing Bono and Red. They're grabbing influencers with charities that they care about and then creating content off the back of it. So that's their model. I think a general rule is the more overlap between content and audience, the better. That's an oversimplified answer, but go look at their stuff. You'll get a sense of what they're doing. You'll get into their remarketing funnels. You'll get a sense of it. And I think if you're into the charity scene at all, they're as good as it is in direct marketing. They are world class.
They're very wholesome. They do it the right way.
Yeah.
There's nothing sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Question right here.
Yeah, for the giveaway stuff, have you done like chatbot integrations? Like I've done this thing where I'll run media dollars to it, running engagement campaigns, comment to opt-in, then running a chat journey through that, because I know I get an 89% open rate for a subscription fee, then give like a gift card to somebody if they get the product, so they can use them with the product. They pay me to buy another product, and I can use their content as another thing, so I don't have to pay influencers.
Yeah.
And then I get that in without having to get anybody to give me an email address, because I get it on a comment to opt-in on the chatbot for free anyway.
No. I'm glad it's working for you. I have not tried it.
No,
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
And I think,
Wait, one more time. Do it again.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so no, really easy. Run media dollars from the influencer, so you get the access to the influencer, right? You get their account.
Done.
Okay, you got the ad engagement 365, whatever, right?
Mike loves this.
You target them with an engagement campaign. You comment to opt in, so everybody that comments on that post opts into your chatbot.
Got it.
You're paying a subscription fee with an 89% open rate, where it doesn't have a cost per email. Then you have a customer journey on that where you can send them different things and send them to communities, landing pages, whatever. Then you offer them like maybe a $20 gift card if they ever buy from you.
Got it.
That way when they do buy from you, you can say, hey, look, you send me a picture with you with my product, I'll give you a $20 gift card. Then you get a flood of UGC content, which you can then use for your creative iterative testing. And then you run that, so you don't have to pay influencers anymore after you get the thing running. You run that in April, and then by Father's Day, you've got 200 pieces of content you're running for free.
Yeah.
So let's talk after.
I want to say,
no, wait, hold on. Go
we
ahead.
are currently hiring for a media buyer, so I just want to throw that out there.
So here's the thing though, like, here's what's important. Here's what's important what you're doing. Know your skill set, know what you know.
Yeah.
We don't play chatbot games.
Yeah, sure.
So if we did, we'd run the same setup. What you're hitting on is compounding value.
Yeah.
Right? Cheap access to high areas of high communication, right? The reason people love Messenger is because just like text, right now, as marketers, we love to dabble in places where the open rates are really high and they haven't been infested yet. So those are great areas. And so absolutely, if you have that core competency, because the question is what's easier, finding the influencers or building the chatbot flow? You know that better than we do in terms of your core competency or who you know or who's in your network, because like the methodology is very similar, right? You've got multiple steps, you're doing engagement instead of conversion, it's email versus chat, but the methodology is similar, so I think it's rad, and I think if you know that world, go for it, go for it.
That's badass.
Sorry, say again? Tools.
Glean, Wishpond, what do you have for giveaways? And how about tools on
That's,
the influencers?
yeah, so the question was what tools are you using to run the giveaways? We have not used them so far, and we will in the next iteration of it. We part of the deal here is like we wanted to try and do this fast, and we didn't have any of the tools, and so we had really good access to these influencers because of some of our relationships in the industry. So it was like, let's try this just as it is. We'll pick a winner, which is maybe illegal, and then I don't know if it is or not actually. And then but now what we're going to do is we're going to build this gigantic one. Like I said, we're going to send people to hang out with this guy, Ricky Carmichael. And with that one, we're out actively looking at like, how do we now multiply it on all the other steps? For example, if you can comment on the post with 2 of your friends' handles, maybe that makes your organic boost go a lot bigger and something like that. And then also you get the email on the next page, and there are tools that will track all that stuff. You said Gleam and what else? You sound more familiar than I do.
Yep. So
The other side is like, how about influencers network?
So Cody, are you still here?
Yeah.
Cody, what's your favorite influencer tools that you guys use?
We use Tagger, discovery tool.
So Cody is
one of the partners at Kinship. So Kinship's an influencer marketing agency. So you guys have looked at every tool in the universe. So what are some of your favorite?
You guys are straight up advertising agency, right?
Yep. So this is a sister agency of ours.
So we use Tagger for its influencer discovery tool. It's available to brands, agencies. We use it to look at what Nick was talking about with lookalikes. So you can look at a specific influencer, find their affinity or lookalike to that person that's larger or smaller based on that, and also see audience demographics, which Taylor touched on as conversion audience, and seeing if those conversion audiences matches with the social audience, then you have a great pairing. So you can see all those things in the back end.
Yeah, there's a million of them. I know obviously is a big one. It depends on what you're after. Are you after identification of overlap with your audience? Are you after content creation? All the tools.
Giveaway measurement and incentivization.
The tools all source for different things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
You said something. What was your second follow-up question? Influencer network?
The tools.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Other questions? Adrian, down here?
I have no question.
No, down here. No.
The microphone, Adrian.
Yeah. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
But I do have one.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of questions for Van.
Savannah.
What do you call your Van?
Sav.
Van.
Sav. Oh,
Savannah.
Sav.
Yeah.
Sav.
Yeah. Savvy Sav.
I'm a complete beginner.
Awesome.
I haven't even launched my school.
Yeah.
I'm not a marketer, I'm a filmmaker, making a film, and I'm putting all the merchandise for the film in a site.
Beautiful.
In order to sell it before I make the film, so I can make it.
Beautiful.
I have no idea where to start. I have read everything, heard everything, and I'm ready to place my Facebook ad, the first one. I'm not into influencer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Great.
doesn't call my gut.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm an actor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I have enough of that. But I do want to do the Facebook ad. What do I do? First of all, what would you say I do?
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, congratulations.
Yeah.
You're in the right spot. You're in the right spot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
It's been a lot
awesome.
of work and I haven't even started. So,
Beautiful.
and the second question is, I hear about the pixels, and this is a fashion film. It's a romantic comedy. And they tell me if you sell the red dress that the lead actress is going to be wearing in the proposal scene, and then you sell the wedding ring or the engagement ring, there are 2 different products. They call 2 different audiences. And the pixel must be different. You can't use the same pixel. I heard that. So I want to know if it's true or not.
For sure. Okay, so to address your first question, if you're just starting out on Facebook advertising, this is a great time to start advertising on Facebook because Facebook's interface is very easy for the whole setup, get your audiences. So the barriers to entry are very low for advertising on Facebook. With that said, something we do offer is an admission program. So what we offer is we have like a step-by-step guide of how to set up your first Facebook ad campaign, what our campaigns look like for all of our agency clients, as well as the different funnels we recommend. So that, if you put your email in the sign-up sheet, we'll send you all the information on that of how to set up your first Facebook campaign.
Just really fast on that. I think you'll need more coaching than a quick answer here
Yeah.
for something like that. And so admission, I think is an awesome product. Like I fully 100% believe in it. I think something like that is going to be really crucial for you. I think you're going to waste money if you don't get some good help. And the earliest stages is my guess.
And for your, yeah,
Youradmission.co. If you go check it out, you'll.
Yep.
Yeah, or just talk to one of us afterwards.
Yep.
We actually have a brand that we work with called Legion M. Legion M, and they actually films, and from the films, they sell the products. So if you look up this brand, Legion M, it could spark some ideas for yourself.
Yeah, they're good at that. Legion M. So they're a production company that also owns an audience. So they are a crowd-funded production company that invests in movies and then they sell merch off the back of it. So we.
I invented that, but I did not.
Yeah. No,
Here you are.
Nobody invented.
I don't know if you've heard of Disney, but my kids have lots of characters for them. But it's a huge business, huge business. And I think what you're saying is exactly right. You actually have an advantage over all of us, and that your primary skill is a content creator. And what we believe is that that's the magic.
Yeah.
And so if you have a great movie scene of a woman in a red dress that people love, and you can find people who have interacted with that scene and love it, and can show them that they too can own the red dress, that's a really powerful funnel. Yeah, so I think you're onto something there if you can identify those audiences. But to Sav's point, your best bet is to get in there and get hands-on coaching on it.
And 1 pixel's fine.
Yeah.
One pixel's all you need. No, 1 pixel does everything. Yep. Yeah.
For the love ad sets, the creative changes that you were doing, was that weekly?
Yes.
Something you mentioned, letting everything run for about a week.
Yeah, so every test we launch is a week phase. So we'll usually launch on Mondays. That's when we'll do all of our creative testing. And then we'll let the ad set get 50 conversions that week in order to be able to analyze the data. That's when Facebook says that the ad set is fully optimized and you can trust the data. But yeah, because we do have a lot of creative resources in the agency, we're able to pump out new creative each week.
Yeah.
Well, it's more of a function of spend than time, which is like if you're spending $50,000 a day, right? Then you can learn in an hour, right? So there's that factor too, which you have to play with.
Yeah, it's a total variable on spend.
Yeah.
So this might be like a variety of different factors, but when I'm running Facebook ads or Instagram ads, I'm finding that within the first 5 days, I get a huge boost. And after like 5 to 7 to a week and a half, my ad stops working. So if I find an ad that works and an audience that works or look-alike or whatever, it always seems to fade off after like a week. Is that a variety of different factors? Is it something Facebook does or
a story you're telling yourself?
A first follow-up question I would have, do you have like a bid cap or a CPA target, or are you just running automatic bidding?
Daily spend, that's what you mean.
Like, okay.
Oh, like a target cost per click, no.
Okay, so something that we do see on Facebook ads, there is a trend. Facebook finds the most low-hanging fruit in your audience first. So usually the graph looks like a spike like this. You have all your purchases and then it plateaus and then it dies. So in the beginning of your launch, that's when you'll usually see the best results, which seems counterintuitive that it would learn over time. But Facebook scoops up the lowest hanging fruit, which I think is what's happening with you. For you, what I would do, if you have a really great creative, I would change the first 3 seconds of that creative, or very small variations
What
of
if
still.
it's just a still picture or like a carousel? Carousel you could switch, but what if it's just one picture?
So if it's like a picture, like different angles of it, different colored backgrounds, different positions of the quotes, we've seen small changes like that make a big difference. And if you throw that inside of a dynamic creative test, you'll be able to get more scale because Facebook has more variations to work with instead of just having one static.
So if it was working properly and I found the right one, it would continue to hold that steady revenue.
That's the idea, right? And
I just turned off ads that were running for a year until they finally petered out. Like, do you mind if I disagree with you right now?
Go ahead, by all means. That's all we are, fights.
So I think that definitely happens, actually. I mean, I'm not gonna I've totally seen that. The other thing I say, and Taylor just kind of hinted at it, you might have heard him say, is it could just be a story you're telling yourself, which is like, maybe you see a very small sample of a couple $100 and you're like, something like that. I don't know what your spend is, obviously. But it's pretty easy to like to find some moment along the way where you feel like it stopped working. But this is exactly the point where what I would do is actually follow up and get everything Savannah mentioned with Power 5 and some of the stuff around how we handle lowest cost bidding and some of that, because there are controls built into Facebook that are going to help you make sure you're not spending lots of bad dollars. We cap everything that we're doing to make sure that we're not running into that problem. And what will happen is if you have bad performance for a little while, Facebook will stop spending your money. And it's very easy to extrapolate from a very small sample set and go like, oh, it stopped working, when actually it was like, it stopped working for a couple hours because it happened to be that those people didn't buy, so.
I mean, yeah, I don't know the metrics that well, but I just base it off of what actual sales are coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the first 5 days I'll have like blasting through sales, like order, I don't know, customer. Like
Yeah.
And then after a week and a half, like I'll not have an order.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly
Could
could be
be.
the life cycle. And the other thing is, remember, what she was talking about was isolating variables in creative. That can be headline too. So you don't necessarily need to change the image. You could try headline tests and try different variations as well. Can be equally as impactful.
So I worked with an agency for Facebook ads, but so far they've told us basically just send me all the creatives by the first of the month, and they won't change any of the creatives or nothing. Like they basically were very strict on like not changing the creative because that's gonna mess with the algorithm. So it's not true that
Well,
we can.
So she's saying her agency is telling her not to change creative over time. Here's the problem with these individual use cases is there are a lot of variables. Again, one of them being spend. One of the things that you also heard Sav say is that patience matters. So what they might be saying to you is you aren't getting enough purchases on the existing creative set for us to give you statistically significant results back. So a big question is, if you think about any statistical significance test, if you think about how many rolls of a 2-sided die you would need to do in order to get closer to accurate outcomes versus a 12-sided die. If you roll a 12-sided die, your variable results in the first 50 rolls are likely to be wider than the 2-sided die. So my point with that is the amount of variables of creative you have relative to the spend that you have against the number of purchases is the output of that determines how much time you need to determine whether stuff's working or not. So without knowing how many creatives you currently have against your existing budget, against your AOV, it's impossible to answer that question. Okay. 5 sets of creative?
5 different sets of products.
Okay.
We have like money, like we're lifestyle stores. So
Okay.
we have a lot of different products.
Sure.
And they want like 5 different creatives per product.
Okay.
So that could be 5 different images or 5 different, different angles of the product and so on. And they don't want any changes in copy or even imagery. They want exactly the same creatives, 5 different sets every month.
So I would ask them.
All different.
So I would ask them. They might have a different methodology from what we like to preach. We know for a fact we've spent as an agency hundreds of millions of dollars in ad spend. The number one variable of impacting the next level of success is with creative iteration. So if you aren't at the level of spending 25, 30, 40, 50, 200, $500,000 a month, you're not getting enough learning or data is what we're saying. What I would ask them would be, what are our metrics that they're looking for them to make decisions on conclusive outcomes?
Yeah,
that's a great question.
Because if you're consistently giving them same creative over and over and over, or maybe you're doing different.
Yeah.
How is that being educated?
Yeah.
Well, are they telling you what to make?
His question is right. I would ask them, when are you making a decision and why? Because monthly is arbitrary. That feels like part of their workflow more than it does about the data. So, and look, that may be based on what you're paying them. That may be based on what you're willing to pay. That's what they're willing to offer. I don't know. So, but I would just ask and try and understand why monthly.
Yeah.
What Nick's question is right. Why does it matter? Like, why is that the objective decision point? And try and understand it better.
What was your name? Mel, nice to meet you.
So I'm creative on an in-house team, and I wanted to know, first of all, how can we increase velocity in our creative? And then also maybe just some background on what you guys do in-house. Like, do you guys have any graphic designers, like production team? What does that look like?
The primary skill we hire for now is After Effects. So After Effects is the primary skill we need all of our designers to have, and we think graphic designer.
Sorry, that's not what I meant. I meant, like, what was your team structure?
Oh, yeah. We have, so every team has a designer. So we don't call them graphic designers because that was a misnomer relative to the skills that we need to produce video content quickly. So every team has a designer. We also have production designers that support the team designers, because team designers have to be on calls with clients. They have to give feedback and understand and really act more as a creative director. And then you have production designers that support that. You have managers of the designers that sort of provide feedback and oversight, all the way up through our head of creative who oversees all of it. But every team, so our teams, we work in growth teams, 4 people, 2 media buyers, a lead, and a creative, service between 6 to 8 clients. So that person's responsible alongside with the support of production designers for the output. And then we just think that small iterations are the key here, is that we just think that you can make big impact with small differences.
Yes.
Color backgrounds.
Yes.
First 3 seconds of videos are critical. Trying different value propositions. If you have a product and you've got 5 potential value propositions, create the exact same 30-second video with the first headline being 5 different things on the text on screen.
This company, the baseball glove wallets, fcgoods.com. The ad that will beat every ad, no matter what we have tried right now, is featuring my friend Corey Hamilton, who's sitting right there with that big, beautiful beard of his, talking about the product. And when we did first shot that video and him showing it and showing all the features, it didn't do well at all. We added an intro slide and then created just literally an image of the product with text on screen saying a little thing about it. We created 5 variations of that, and there's one of those that like clearly rose to the top. The only difference is our copy, and now we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with that ad, and it just keeps winning. And it happened by taking basically one image, one still image, one video, putting them together, and then creating like 7 variations off of it, plus a bunch of copy changes, and one kept rising to the top. So the point being, it's not always about big changes. It's about important changes in the right places. First 3 seconds, what the text actually says when somebody first gets it, how you're gonna get somebody involved.
The other thing we did, Ricky works on our content team. So how much did the set cost that we built for FC Goods?
Probably around $600.
So we went to Home Depot, we built in our office a set.
No, bro,
right?
Somebody drove around and picked up stuff from Craigslist.
Yeah,
that
all
was an
over the
intern,
place.
is what
$600, built this set, and then we had 10 people go through and record a UGC in front of it.
Yep.
So now $600, 10 assets one day, right? Like, so you just have to think about compounding value again.
Ladder for speed is the point. Ladder for options and speed more than beauty. The way it goes wrong is when you get a designer who's really, really excited about an idea and spends a week on it and gives you one ad, and then it gets killed. Like, we've seen that happen too. So
yeah.
Should we wrap and maybe take individual?
Yeah, one
more question?
One more question?
No.
All right, let's party. We're here. Talk to us, ask questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Really
you all
thanks.
so much.